So, Miraculous Cumbria.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us,
Hello.
Jane and Steph.
Hi.
So, how long has the podcast been going for?
Oh, it's been going all the way since June
Right. Whose idea was it?
2018.
It was your idea, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I can't even remember coming up with it.
Oh, right.
It was late night. I'd messaged you with some queries about life about 11:30 at night, and
Standard.
I was like, yeah, I really want to start writing some new stuff, and just don't know how to get into it, and etc. And you were like, I'm thinking about doing a podcast. That's my Jane voice.
Bang on.
I'm thinking about doing a podcast, and
What did you
about
say?
Cumbria.
What's a podcast?
And I was like, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll help.
Yeah.
And is that how you remember it?
Well, I moved back to Cumbria a year ago this time. It was
Right.
my birthday on Sunday, so a year ago on my birthday I moved back to Cumbria, born and bred in my tiny little village, Kirkby-in-Furness. My parents are from there, my grandparents. It goes back 300 years.
Right.
I escaped.
Wow.
I escaped and got a degree, and then I was living in Brighton for like 14 years.
That's quite a long way away.
And yeah, and I started doing the comedy about 4 or 5 years ago, and then I was working full time, and then I was like, I've had enough of this awful job. So my parents were like, come home, and I was like, no way. And then yeah, I just like, there must be more to life than this. So I sold all my
Worldly possessions.
worldly possessions or give them away.
Mm-hmm.
Feels really good.
Charity and all that.
Yeah.
All that. And so I moved back, and then within the last year I've kind of been like finding my roots again, and like as a more mature person as well, as a woman.
Lol.
Lol. Hashtag lol. Yeah, it's actually become really important to me. As like a kid, I couldn't wait to get away, and I've been away all these years, and I've come back, and I'm like,
How long were you
actually-
away for?
So yeah, I've been away for like living in Brighton. I was like 13, 14 years.
Wow.
And then moved back, and then I was like, everything about Cumbria on TV or radio is from a man who's like in his 60s.
So that's the premise, right? Now I'm with you.
There's no like voice for like young girls. She's young.
I try.
Like there's no one in our age or who like our peers who are doing this kind of thing. is
Julia
there?
Bradbury was giving it a good go as a female, but she's a little bit older, and she's not even from Cumbria.
Yeah,
She's
not Northern,
Southern,
is
isn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Extremely. So we were like, hey,
Against Southerners.
you've done a great job, but
Yeah, and I run comedy workshops as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I met Steph earlier in the year at a comedy workshop. She came in late, and
So you've not known each other that long then?
No.
See, judging by the podcast, I thought you'd known each other for years.
there you go.
it's all an act.
It's all
we
an act.
rarely
It's
speak.
all an act.
Yeah.
Outside of this, we hate each other.
Yeah, it's really difficult.
Block
Makeup
all
covering
the-
up the black eyes and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you know? You've been talking.
Before we get too far
Yeah.
ahead, so for anyone who doesn't
Sure.
know, what is the concept of the podcast? It's called
So-
Miraculous Cumbria.
Yeah, so I got Steph involved at Miraculous Cumbria. I was Googling Cumbria, and my friend did some art, and it was something about, isn't it miraculous how we all keep our shit together? It's something, I thought, oh, miraculous, that's a really good idea, because I wanted it to be
It's a
called
nice
like,
word.
what do I want to call it, like Northern Lasses or something, but that's
Something.
taken. That's
Mm.
taken by a blogger.
Ah, yes.
And then I thought miraculous, and I just messaged you and said, what about Miraculous Cumbria? She was like, yeah.
it does
yeah.
fit Cumbria, to be fair. I
And
have to agree.
when you Google Miraculous Cumbria, all of these awful like accidents on the mountains come up. It's like, it's miraculous he's alive. And
Yeah.
I was like, I want us to show up with those really
Ahead
dark.
of all that.
There's a
Within
lot of
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
just in and amongst. There's a lot of headlines with that involved.
I love it. Like Cumbria cracks. I was like, it's miraculous he came out alive. I'm like, I want a piece of that
I
SEO.
saw what
Yeah,
I
it's
did Google it.
good.
And I saw one that said it's a miracle anyone lives here.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There's something about the
Miraculous.
word miraculous that could be positive and negative
And
as
it's
well.
fun to say.
true.
Which I feel
It's
like
true.
sums
Never
up
thought of that.
like
Yeah.
what we wanted to, go out and do was explore Cumbria
Yeah.
and
But how would you just, if someone was saying what's it about, what would you say to someone in a nutshell then?
we go around castles.
Is it just castles?
So we
No.
pick Cumbria landmarks or experiences. We go and do them,
Mhm.
Mm.
and then we talk about it.
I love the concept. It's great.
And we are shit Cumbrians. That's the
Oh,
whole thing.
so
We don't
bad.
know everything. When we first started doing
but that's the journey of the podcast, and
Yeah,
your listeners will on that
exactly.
journey with you.
Exactly. There's
So,
definitely a narrative.
our first ever episode, which is just us, we'd only met twice before that and spent about 10 hours together, was just us sat in my
when
garden.
you know, you know.
It's my podcast wife. So the first episode, I always tell people, skip the first episode. It's us just like chatting and getting used to each other and
Skip
getting
the
used
first
to.
episode.
But also
I went
trying
straight
to
to
be
the first
funny
episode.
to
Did
each
you?
other, I think, in a way. Like, I
It's
don't
the
know.
it's the
probably not
camaraderie
same for
between the two of you, the
because
banter.
You're a professional comedian, but the first one for me was very much like, if this goes badly, she might not ask me back. So try and be as funny as you can possibly be.
You don't want to be too funny though. Just be yourselves.
Yeah.
That's the best thing you can do.
Well,
That's the
yeah.
thing. 'cause
That's
we-
what makes the
yeah.
podcast
Oh, yeah.
unique, is you two being yourselves.
Yeah,
Oh,
because we were like,
thank
oh,
you.
we're going to get sponsorship, and we had like a couple of companies that we could have approached for sponsorship, and we were like,
It's too
"No."
early for that, I think.
And we were like, do you know what? We just want to be ourselves. We don't want to censor ourselves.
You need an
Exactly.
audience, a proper decent sized audience first before you
Yeah,
start thinking of all that
definitely.
sort of
And
stuff.
we need to have fun doing it.
Yeah, as soon as it's not fun,
Yes. There's
it
no
won't
point.
be. You won't have a podcast. So.
Yeah.
And I think listeners will pick up on that as well.
Yeah.
I think so, and we have had a lot of fun so far.
So much fun. We just want this to
When
be
I
our
thought of it,
full-time
the
job.
concept of it, I thought like you could, when you get very popular, anywhere you go, will want to have you come in there, because then as soon as you go on social media with it, then it'll
That's
bring them loads of.
ultimately the
Airbnb.
aim. Airbnb.
So which is why when you start, you sort
New
of need to
Balance
work
shoes.
out a routine of how you review places. Like you'll get into a routine of how do we do this, how to make it fun, how to be but
Yeah.
informative at the same time. Because
It-
I thought you don't want to be too local, because you'll get people listening from all over the world
Sure,
who
yeah.
will. The reason they listen to your podcast is because they searched Cumbria or the Lake District.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you could be like a barometer for them. They might think, oh, these people know what they're talking about.
Well, it's finding
But we
like
don't.
no, not a clue. It's finding a balance
Delete.
between
Unsubscribe.
yeah.
Don't
done.
unsubscribe. It's fun. It'll get better. It'll grow on you.
Well,
we keep saying to people, it'll grow on you.
how many episodes are you now? 5?
13.
13.
14,
14.
15. I just
think
I
I
just
listened to-
uploaded 15 today.
But we have the main episodes and then we have the bonus ones.
Bonus is
as
like
well.
getting to know us.
How'd you get the bonus ones?
Wednesdays?
No, they're just there. They're out there.
Oh, you put extra ones out apart
Yeah.
from your normal
Yeah.
ones.
We
So
just-
Friday is like a mega episode. Like
Yeah.
we
Where you've
try
been
and
to somewhere and
yeah,
done something.
Yes.
We usually like record the same day we've been somewhere. So we're often
Oh, I see.
recording in a car or in a park.
In a bed.
In a bed.
That
Which
was a
the bed?
particularly luxury weekend we had there. Normally,
I thought
it's a
that.
This
car.
It's
weekend.
cost them a fortune to do all this.
This
Yeah,
weekend.
this
was the
weekend
bed
we were in
one.
bed.
This weekend, our relationship took the next step
Holy
into
moly.
sharing a
Yeah.
bed because it was my birthday, so we stayed at a castle.
Push
It
the
wasn't,
boat out.
yeah, it wasn't a castle in Cumbria, but it was a castle in Hornby Castle.
Where is that?
Hornby.
Near
Yeah.
Lancaster.
Ah, right.
Like near Lancaster.
Almost Cumbria.
And
enough.
it was we were so scared at night that
It was embarrassing.
we didn't sleep the first night.
It was a completely normal flat during the day, and it
Yeah.
was gorgeous and lovely, and
As soon
didn't
as it
feel.
got dark.
As soon as it went dark,
Terrifying.
but also we had spent the whole day working each other up, and like I said, castles before. We don't only visit castles, but I do think we have a personal preference
Ghosts.
towards castles.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to
And
branch out at some
ghosts
point, I think.
And mystery and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
we
like the
did,
ghost stories one.
yeah, for sure. So we did a ghost story special. When we did Muncaster Castle, we did a 2-part episode
Yeah.
because we just loved that shit so much. And then, so going to Hornby was like, oh my god, now I get to live in a castle. It was a dream until it got dark, and so many of our
Then it turned into a
conversations-
nightmare.
Turned
Yeah.
Market turned into like a nightmare. We both like had watched. We love like shit ghost documentaries, stuff like that.
You watch
all
Most Haunted?
that. Yeah, Most Haunted.
Most Wanted, Ghost Detectives, rescue mediums.
I've not heard of any of these.
Oh,
We'll
if
give you a
can
list.
Watch
Okay.
Rescue Mediums on Netflix.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just a joy. Anyway, so our heads are full of that anyway, and we
Yeah.
wind each other up with that kind of thing. So the first night, we kind of tenderly was like, okay,
Good night.
good night, shut the door, and in the morning, I was like, how did you sleep?
I woke up at 6:30 and my bedroom door was wide open, and it's a thick door.
Wow.
Prove to me anyone that wouldn't shut you up.
I was scared, and it didn't
I
even
was
matter.
scared, and then I was like, I was gonna text you.
I was like, I was going to text you.
Why did- and the next night I was like, well, the bed's like a king size. You could get in with me if you wanted. And she was like, I don't know. Do you want?
He was
I was
like,
I don't know.
would
Do
you
want?
prefer it if I stayed with you? Because I will if you want me to.
So you had
And
2
then
nights there.
We had 3
Three
nights.
nights,
So the
wow.
first night we managed by ourselves, and the second night we slept in Jane's bed, and the third night we slept in my bed. And on the second night, Jane got no sleep, even though I was laying beside her. And on the third night, I got no sleep.
I think you're in the wrong business then. If you can.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, actually.
It was terrible. The first night we slept in the same bed, I woke up, I was soaked with sweat. And we were so scared to like put our hand outside the duvet and stuff.
It was, yeah.
So dark and quiet.
But I would encourage anyone to go and visit because it is gorgeous and the grounds are lovely and it was really nice.
Hornby Castle, Airbnb.
Not for us.
I think a lot of castles are like that. They're magnificent during the day, and then as soon as it turns dark, it's like a totally different thing.
Because your brain is processing everything you've seen. So we're processing the drive up to the castle, the castle grounds, where we are within the turrets. And it's just like your mind starts every horror.
Yeah.
I kept thinking there was like a woman in the corner, like facing the corner.
Yeah, a lot of
ghost
that is your mind
story.
playing tricks on you because of like horror films and stories and stuff. I think I like a lot about like UFOs and stuff. Like, I'm not saying there isn't UFOs, but I have doubts a lot of the sightings that we've seen.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. And all of those stories and thoughts that you've ever had come into your mind at about 10 o'clock in a castle.
I mean, I take...
Well, it's like shadows. You start seeing shapes and things.
We couldn't see anything, Mark.
If you have the bravery to
see
open your
anything.
eyes, which I didn't, I was just tightly shut the whole time.
Yeah.
So what sort of places have you been to in your 14 episodes then that are worth a mention?
So yeah, we did. The first one we went to was Derwent House in Keswick, which
Derwent
is
Water?
the like house on an
Georgian?
island.
Oh,
Georgian
yeah,
house
yeah.
on an
I know that
island,
one.
yeah.
Yeah.
They have like 5 open days a year.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure we went to did we go to the last one
Second
and then
to
try
last.
to advertise it? Okay, there was
Yeah.
one. That's fine.
I then do it 4 times a year. So
4 or 5,
What
yeah.
was it like on there?
It's great.
That was brilliant, actually. So family actually live in the house still.
And hide from everyone, don't they?
Yeah. And we had a lot of questions about that setup.
But it's run by a National Trust, so we had a really nice National Trust guy who'd worked there for 40 years. So like,
He knew
give us
everything.
he was like, "Come see this tunnel," and we were like, "Yes."
He loved it when we said we were doing a podcast, and that was the first episode, so we weren't necessarily confident what the reaction would be or how people, it wasn't like we could go up to him and be like, we've a well-established podcast with 105 episodes in our belt. It's like, we've just started doing this, and do you have any... Well, the
He
first
loved
thing we
it.
said was, is there any ghosts?
Yeah.
And he got really into it and was like, do you want to see a secret room? Not quite like that. It wasn't.
You're like,
It
duh.
wasn't quite as creepy as that. But yeah, we have a secret room. So we followed him down into the depths, and it was amazing.
We were very trusting.
I was
yeah.
going to
Follow
say,
the man.
was just the
We-
2 of you?
Yeah.
Yeah. But we're both quite tall
You're like,
women.
why isn't nobody else on this tour?
Yeah.
I could break a man's arm if I had to. It's fine. I'm like a swan.
Yeah, and I could help.
Right.
I could
Yeah.
hold him
Swan.
down or scream loudly. I think that would be my superpower.
Get in a very high pitched. As Tech got
yeah.
to edit this podcast, because
No.
you're gonna have to edit
We don't edit.
Steph's peaks. They're like this.
We've got good compression, don't worry.
Good.
Don't
Yeah,
worry.
okay.
It's
I've
fine.
learned how
We
to
do-
compress our podcast now.
Have you?
Yeah, so I don't have to do all the little like red tip. But it'd be like
Ours is all done in real time, so we don't have to do any editing.
Excellent.
I'm a
Same
little
with the
bit.
video as
I'm
well.
a little bit pitchy. What? It's live.
No, it's not live, but
Oh
like
right.
he's changing the cameras when we talk, and that's all recorded on the fly. So at the end of the episode, it's done.
Okay.
I was going to put on
So
lipstick.
you're just
but-
working.
So what
through it
setup
as
is
we
you?
go.
Have like is it a Zoom?
Zoom with 2 mics.
Which one is it? Is it
Um,
H4?
4?
2
Fancy one?
2 microphone inputs.
Yes. That's the
Cool.
one.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I
That's
wanted
how
it to
it
be
works.
portable.
It's got to be portable for you guys, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
And the
this-
quality, those are like industry standard what people use for them.
Yeah,
So
and I've actually nailed the Audacity software now.
that's what we use. Yeah.
And then I put it into iMovie.
Some of the biggest podcasts in the world still just use Audacity.
Yeah.
Really?
Simple enough.
Do you know what Audacity is?
I haven't a clue.
I knew she didn't. She's like, really? Really? Really?
Oh,
You've got no idea. I could see it in your eyes.
I'm a
I don't-
podcast nerd. I listen to podcasts about podcasting, so
Wow. You've come full circle.
yeah. But
Nice.
that's how we're here. That's how we're here now. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a good record of that, and you can tell by the quality of the audio. What do you do after you
Good
record?
work, Hen.
What do you edit it in?
I shove the file into, it's on stereo, shove it into Audacity, do lots of amplifying, blah, 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 blah.
Leveling and all that.
Put it into one timeline.
Deals
Yeah.
with
Mix
my
it,
pitch.
stereo
It's a
down to
separate
mono.
project.
Have you got separate? Did they come in as separate tracks?
Yes.
Yeah, that's handy
Yeah.
because you can balance
Yeah.
them. Someone gets a bit out of control.
and then I save that file and I put it in iMovie and do it in iMovie because it's really simple. Someone in the Facebook, you know, that massive Facebook podcast group was like, you need to do it, have a professional doing it for you. You can't do it by yourself. And I was like, I can.
You can.
Oh,
And
watch
I have.
me.
You can do anything
Watch
yourself
me.
these days.
Man. No offense, Marc.
It was a man.
No offense,
Prove him
Marc.
wrong.
We're very happy to be
You always
here.
get people.
Yeah.
You always
Yeah.
get people like that, though, don't you?
Yeah,
It can't be done that
it's
way.
a bit.
Yeah, I can do it.
Watch me.
Because on my PC, I used to do it all in Sony Vegas video software. So it's like, it can be done in iMovie. It's just a sound file.
It's incredible what you can do these days on.
Yeah.
Not
Isn't
very
it
much.
just?
She has
I
no
have
idea.
no. I don't
No
handle
idea.
any
You're a
of this.
technophobe then, are you?
I'm not necessarily a technophobe,
Just don't know.
but I just know nothing about this particular industry. I'm very much the pretty face that turns up.
So do you either of you listen to podcasts?
Yeah.
Yes.
What do you? What's some ones
We
that you
listen to
listen
yours all the
All
time.
the time. My favourite.
What's
I love with special guest Lauren Lapkus.
I've heard of that one.
It's brilliant. It's a character one, and that's I wanted to do because my comedy, I do comedy characters and stand up.
We'll get
So-
to that.
Yeah. Oh, great. So the podcast I was gonna do was one with like kind of based similar to that, where I'd have other comedians who do characters would come on and we do a character.
Right,
But it's so hard pinning other comedians down.
Yeah. They're all over the place, aren't they?
Yeah, and they're just
I'm
flaky
free all the time. All the time.
yeah, so she's free. So yeah, with special guest Lauren Lapkus, and then we're both really into My Favorite Murder.
So good.
Yeah.
So
I know of that
good.
one.
Yeah, it's so good.
Love that. I listen to Guilty Feminist, and I like Adam Buxton.
I like Adam Buxton. Comedians.
Comedian
Stuart
is
Goldsmith.
really good. Yep. What else? My Dad Wrote a Porno.
Yeah, that's a good
Is
one.
one of my
yeah.
I'm
faves.
trying to think what's on my.
I'm subscribed to 135 podcasts. I just looked
Oh,
before.
where do you find the time?
Well, I drive a lot, so
Are you
I just
taxi driver?
Ah,
Yeah, perfect.
drive a lot, so
That's
Oh.
good.
I can
I wish I
consume.
had more time.
Between
for
that
them.
and music, listen to
Yeah.
music or
Yeah.
podcasts.
Oh, that's perfect.
It's the future, Marc,
It is.
and we are setting, you know.
I don't think it's not going to. People
standards.
say it's going to kill radio. Well, radio will always be there, I think.
Yeah, but that's like, that's like saying that Netflix and etc. is going to kill TV, and it won't.
Well, I think I don't know
Mm.
about terrestrial TV because that's not. It needs to be on demand these days, I think, for it to survive.
Yeah.
Radio's going to be. You've got a car. You've got places where radio's like
Yeah.
portable radios, like building sites. There's always
Yeah.
going to be places where people want to radio.
Yeah, that's true.
But
Plaster is
TV, the
buildings.
concept of
Yeah.
having to be in
Yeah.
to watch terrestrial television, it's just.
Gone.
I don't know. It's like Netflix or any of those
Yeah.
apps or the iPlayer. Like they're all built into TVs these days. You just
Yeah.
you start watching
I
it.
have
That's
a smart TV,
Yeah,
Marc.
it's good, isn't it?
Yeah, and
Do you?
yeah, I do. Yeah,
Oh.
What was I
Having like
gonna
mine's
say?
got YouTube built into it. So I'm on that all
Mine
the
has.
time. It's just
Mine
brilliant.
has, and I can do it on my iPhone and then send the video to my TV.
Yeah.
What black magic is
I know.
that?
Yeah.
Wow. I think we have a smart TV. I can watch Netflix on it.
I'm guessing that, yeah.
That's all right with you, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine. That does me. That does me fine.
But I
That.
mean, America has been. I think it's the future for definitely being in the comedy industry. I mean, Americans have been doing it for like 10 years or more,
Mm.
and I've been seeing it. I started a podcast about 3 years ago, talking to other comedians and creative people about their creative process. But
What was it called? Is it still available?
I think I took it down. It was Spectacular Jane's Spectacular Comedy Podcast.
Right. Well,
Just
good
put it
name.
up there.
It
Power
was
word.
good,
I was very
yeah.
into power
I was
words at
gonna
the time.
say.
Yeah.
Spectacular.
And I talked to a
miraculous.
lot of it was kind of to get close to a lot of comedians who I really liked, and like,
Good
so how
plan.
do you write blah 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 blah.
That's
Uh,
also another reason how we came together, because she was just like knocking on the door. Steph, I really want to work with you.
I keep telling when people ask about Steph, they're like, you know what she's like. I was like, turn away so you can't hear me.
Sure.
I'll just whisper it. Steph is funnier than me, but I haven't told her yet. Okay, turn around now.
Are you a comedian
Turn
as well?
around.
No.
All right.
I'm grooming
Do you think
her
she
to
could
be
be?
one. Yeah, I mean, she
grooming me.
wants to be one. I mean,
Is it the getting on stage that's holding you back, or
Yeah, it's having something that you've loved all your life and desperately wanted to do, and having someone go, "Oh, actually, you're not that good at it."
well,
yeah?
she
But
did-
who's good when they start though?
No one.
No
yeah,
one.
but that's what I can't. I don't want to cross that bridge. If I could just volley over that bit, that would be
Yeah.
great.
It's not
Those,
possible. It's
those
not
6
possible.
months of doing gigs in
Yeah.
awful pubs and
You have to do some.
I don't
You have
wanna
to do
do
some
that.
serious bombing for a
No,
while.
yeah, I know, and I think I'll be happier to bomb when I know that I've spent the time that I want to spend writing and putting something
takes a lot of
together and
commitment.
feeling confident that I've got something. And if it bombs, then I'll be like, okay, well, that's fine. Back to the drawing board. I've done the process.
You can't improve what you don't start. So.
Exactly. And I think I'd been putting off a lot of the writing. Honestly, I did the workshop with Jane.
You did 2, I think.
I did 2.
3 now.
What does that
I've
involve?
done 3 now, but where to begin? So much stuff. I decided to sign up for it onto a whim because my grandma gave me some money for Christmas. And I had that proper January of feeling of like, this year I'm going to, start something and do something that I really want to do and, try and find that one thing that I'm good at. And comedy had always been something that I had wanted to do and put off because I kind of was so obsessed
to know where
with
to
it.
start, isn't it?
Yeah, and like was such a fan of it. You put people on pedestals and kind of go, well, they're doing it really well, so
What's the point of me
who
doing
am
it?
I to come and try and do that? And also, I kind of felt like a few people of my friends had said to me in the past, you should be a comedian, but that just means that you can tell a story well in a pub after a couple of wines.
Yeah.
Like I felt.
It's how you tell it, I suppose.
And boy, can I tell them.
That's how a lot of comedians started, though, just being
yeah.
really funny, and people said, you should just go give it a try.
And
in my workshops, I kind of show you then how to write, don't I?
Exactly.
How
And
to
that was
get something from nothing and put stuff together.
Exactly.
And,
I was extraordinarily nervous about going to this workshop. I can't even tell
She
you.
was very funny. Dare I say, even the best.
Oh,
you know.
Did you record them so you could watch them back, or?
No, there's no evidence about
There's
that.
no
You can only
evidence.
go on the words that she just said. Let's keep to them. So yeah, I was pretty nervous, but I kind of felt like, oh well, if I'm not funny off the cuff, if I'm not thinking of jokes all the time, if I'm not going to bed and jokes are coming to my head fully formed, then I'm not funny. I'm not going to be able to do
That's
this.
how people
Takes a lot
get
of
put
work.
off because they're like,
it is.
You can start with a premise, and then over a few gigs, like develop it,
Exactly.
and take bits off, add bits on.
And I don't think that I'm necessarily ever going to be a one-liner comic that's just
that's
like
really
that.
hard.
It's
You need,
super
like,
hard.
One every 5 seconds.
Exactly.
Especially up here, I don't think there's that much opportunity to keep trying it out. Like
Well,
in
that's
America, there's
difficult.
always just you can just go and do open mic nights
In
wherever you want.
Brighton,
Just in a
where I
city.
was,
Yeah.
I could go out every night
Yeah,
and
exactly.
do it.
Up here, it's
No.
not.
It's
not-
really
There's not
hard.
many opportunities.
But yeah, so going to the workshop was like within the first 10 minutes, I was like, oh, okay. So there's a structure and there's exercises you can do and there's this whole world of like process and strategy. Maybe makes it sound a little bit too
I'd say
businessy.
strategy. It sounds amazing. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Gotta have a strategy.
But it was brilliant, and we just went through. We did loads of exercises. Some of them were like improv. Some of them were like 5-minute writing tasks. We just scrolled down a load of stuff and read them out to the group. But it was kind of a small group, so it felt.
Yeah,
I was really
intimate.
nervous, and as soon as I got there, we did a little dance to Taylor Swift, and I felt much better. That's like how it starts. It wasn't just me and Jane going, "Do you want to? Should we do a
I
little?"
make them dance. You should come on one of my. You need to come on one of my
Where
workshops.
where are they at?
Sometimes I do them in Carlisle. I'm going to book some. Doing them in Ulverston.
Whereabouts in Carlisle do you do them?
Usually at the old fire station.
Yeah.
And then in
Great venue.
the Laurel and Hardy Museum in Ulverston.
Been there.
And I've just been doing some in Manchester for women as well.
Cool.
But the ones I do in Cumbria are mixed, so
Yeah.
come along.
You get a lot of
Yeah.
interest though.
Yes. Yeah.
How much does it cost?
Oh, it depends.
Okay.
For you,
I think it's like a 5-hour workshop, like 50 quid or something like
Alright.
that, which is a bargain compared to
Yeah,
which was
but-
exactly the amount of money that my grandma gave me for Christmas.
Yeah.
Well, it was meant to be, wasn't it?
It
was
felt
meant
like
to
a
be.
sign. It popped up, and I was like,
And
"Let's do
I'm
this."
teaching everything that took me 3 years to
Well,
learn
exactly.
as well.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I'm teaching all the secrets, and it's the thing with like people who write a novel. Is I always say in the workshop, you watch Murder She Wrote, and she sits at a typewriter and writes a novel. You think that comedy or writing a book even is just like, oh, you sit down and do it. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
It's
No.
post-it notes and
Yeah,
middle of the night one-lines and
Yeah.
just like putting it together. And yeah,
it
That's
was
a bit
really,
like
really good.
Similar to musicians as well.
yeah,
Come up with
yeah.
ideas
maybe.
and like
yeah.
I've written songs. I've woken up with an idea for a song and then it's ended up being on an album. So it's like just one night. I was like,
Oh.
or
Yeah,
we've been struggling with a song for ages and I just can't think of what like lyrically to do for it. And I've just had a dream that's just
yeah.
that's what they do.
dreams.
It
Yeah.
never comes to you when you sit down with a pen and a
Very
paper.
rarely.
and go,
Shower,
very
Okay.
rarely.
shower, and falling asleep.
Yeah, I tend to just. Well, that's what you told me.
But
to
just
do
the fact
anyway,
that you are
is-
thinking of it like that shows that you're into it and you want
yeah,
to do it.
yeah,
Because
absolutely.
your brain carries on working out problems for you,
Yeah.
and you can train it. So should we announce that we're doing something together?
I think we should.
This isn't going out for a few weeks.
Oh,
so.
it's fine.
That's okay then.
Me and Steph are going to actually write a show, a 1-hour show. which
Wow.
is, we haven't really told
It's
the
a thing
world
now.
yet. It's a thing. We're going to have to do it now. So it'd be like a Brighton Fringe show and potentially an Edinburgh show as well.
Ah, cool.
And for me, I've never I worked with a director this year and really enjoyed it because I usually work alone, and that's like terrifying. Well, it's not terrifying, but it's like,
yeah, I imagine
like,
it would
this
be.
is great. This is shit. This is great. Waking up in the night, like, oh my god, everything's crap. And
That
then you're
sounds
like,
terrifying.
yeah, yeah, it's like
Yeah.
that.
Roller coaster.
I'm really excited about it.
So have you got a concept for it? You don't have to say it here, but have you...
It's gonna be, my humor's quite. I always get compared to the League of Gentlemen, which at first I was like, that's great because I love them, or Julia Davis, and then like the last 2 years I'm like, can you just not compare me to someone else who's dark and northern?
Yeah.
And I'm not
Yeah,
not
that's
four
true.
men writing. I'm one woman, so I always get compared to that. So it'd be very. My humor's quite dark. I think yours is too.
Yeah, I think that what a lot of the stuff and themes we've been talking about is the kind of darkness in the what's the word the darkness in the day to day, in the mundane. Yeah, and I really enjoy the hilarity of the tiny little things that happen.
Seek out the darkness in the day.
Yeah, day to day, and then making
like,
that
just-
really dark.
Just a thing, and just weird stuff.
Dark can mean different things to different people as well.
Yeah, that's very true.
When I do like really mild stuff, people are like, oh, she's so dark. I've got something on Radio 4 at the moment.
Right.
It's called The Art of Now, and it's.
Oh yeah, I did look that up. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like right at the end, so just skip like 20 minutes in. And it's one of my characters who's a marionette, and she's trapped in a toy room, and I was like, when it,
You know, trapped in a what? Sorry.
toy room.
Right. Okay.
And she's got ropes on and stuff. So you're like, oh, that's quite a funny character, marionette, as in, you know, her name's Marionette.
I like
and then
it.
I
Get
was
it.
like,
Like it.
oh, she's been kidnapped by a man and put in the toy room,
Right.
and then she's trying to
So it suddenly
escape.
goes dark.
So it gets really dark,
That's the
and then I'm talking to the audience. Like I've done it live as well, and said, you know, oh, I've been eating through my ropes and just what's been happening for the last 15 years. And
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil it. And so at Radio 4, I sent them some samples, and they really liked this one, and it went out
Cool.
at like 11:30 in the morning.
Oh, prime time.
But,
Prime time for some dark marionette humour.
But like
It's not
people
on
were
your
like,
CV though.
oh, I listened to it. It was very dark, but I liked it.
It's that or Loose Women. So, you know.
Yeah. You can
Take
listen
your
to
pick.
it.
Oh, it was like that when Joan Rivers swore on there.
No.
She said, I can't remember what she said. She said "fuck" or something like that on it, and then they got taken off air and they got into the advert. And she was like, how loose are these fucking women if you can't say fuck?
I was told I could be loose.
Love it.
Oh, she's
Love
funny.
it.
Yeah.
God rest her soul.
So yeah, we're putting something together. We haven't decided whether it's a sketch, a little bit of character. I really enjoy taking people into a world and having the audience to get told where they are. And I
Taking them
really
on a
enjoy-
journey.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think an hour of any comedy, particularly stand-up on your
Yeah.
own, is harder than anyone thinks. Like, even
I
just to
wouldn't
do
know.
15 minutes, just to
I
do
have no
15
idea.
minutes,
Yeah.
I think would be like hard, and then
Yeah,
just
15
add
minutes
bits to
is-
it. But it's like,
I'm quite because I did a theatre diploma thing a few years ago, and I was like turning 30. I was like, I need to do something in my life, and I had no confidence and you know, battle with mental health issues and anxiety and depression. I was like, I'm going to turn 30 and I'm not going to have done what I
so
wanted
perfect
to
recipe
do.
for a comedian then.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect. Tick,
Oh, yeah.
tick,
Yeah.
tick.
Yeah.
Yeah, never date a comedian. I always say that about male comedians, and I'm like, yeah, it applies to women too. We will talk about you.
Oh, my God.
And
So
we do
true.
talk
Mm.
about, yeah.
Everything.
I overshare. If I'm
So do
emceeing
I,
a night,
though.
or I don't really do it too much on podcasts because my dad listens. But if I'm doing like a live night, you know, I'll probably overshare about stuff.
Yeah. Or just in my
or a
car.
workshop. In your car and at my work. Come to my workshops and learn about my life.
No, it's good though, because there is a level of vulnerability that comes with, you know, doing good comedy, I think, and accessing what people laugh at ultimately.
Yeah.
I kind
That was-
of
That was
That was quite
deep.
profound.
Soundbite that. Soundbite it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Because I started doing stand up and then I went into characters.
How did you get into stand-up?
So.
How old were you?
How old was that? It's only a few years ago.
Okay.
So yeah, turned 30 and I did like a 2-week acting workshop in the evening in Brighton, and then they were like, do you want to come and do the diploma? It's 2 years on top of working full time. And I was like, fuck it, why not?
Sure.
And I had no confidence and no I was just really anxious and just was so nervous and no confidence, and then that kind of 2-year course beat it out of me. And then you're doing stuff that you're kind of scared of, and then you do it. Like
Facing
the
your
first,
fears and all that.
yeah, like first thing was like memorizing a 2-minute poem and then saying it in front of like 60 people, which is like, people you knew, but it was like, oh my God.
Stressful.
And like cried. And then 2 years later, I'm like singing a song by myself, or, you know, in a play. And I really enjoyed all the comedy roles in that. And when I came out of it, I was a bit lost, because all the principal of the school was like, you're going to get cast as like northern willowy woman. And she was like, when you have emotions, they all show in your face. That's so valuable as an actress. So like graduated, and we were all like really high, like 15 of us who had spent 2 years with. Like, yeah, we're going to be actors. And then you come out and no one rings you, because no one gives a shit. I've still got a pile of headshots like that.
Brilliant. Oh, the classic headshots. Got to be done, hasn't it?
No one wants them. No one cares. So when I came out, and then the year after, I was writing stuff. I was writing little sketches, and if someone in the group was irritating me, I'd write about them. Or I just had all these notebooks full of stuff, you know, when you're bored. And even in my day job, I was so bored. In meetings, I'd be sat like nodding, but like drawing little rabbits.
These are like sketches for like a comedy sketch show kind of thing. Right, yeah.
And stupid things people had said, or little cartoons of rabbits shooting each other, or, you know, little things like that. And then after I did I did a funny women workshop, and I thought I was shit. And then I was like, when do we get to learn jokes? And the one who runs it was like, when you do the more expensive one. So I went back to London and did the more expensive advanced course. And that was at Leicester Square Theatre. And I think that was like 2013, like November time. And the story goes, the train was late, the buses were like, I was delayed. And I was like, oh God, she hates me already. And I'm going to get there and I'm going to disrupt everyone's time. And anyway, I got there, and part of it was to do a little bit of stand-up. So to write a bit of stand-up. It was shit. It was about like my grandparents taking me to Little Chef, and how I thought that was a fancy restaurant until I was like 21. I was like, oh, big giant fish finger and chips is not fancy. Like on the way to Blackpool. So it was something like that. And anyway, Lynn, who runs it, was like, do you know what, Jane? You need to come back and do your first stand-up tonight. And I was like, what?
Oh my God.
At Leicester Square in the lounge. And Aisling B was headlining, because she's all over the TV now, Irish.
She's good.
So I did that, and it was shit, but I got it out the way. And then
it can never be as bad as that.
No, exactly.
How shit was it?
I can't remember. It was pretty bad. I didn't have
Did
an
people
ending.
laugh though?
It's
Yeah,
funny.
they were like,
People
oh, bless her.
compare music to comedy, but in music they always say the band had like their whole life to write their first album, so it just wrote itself. But it doesn't work like in comedy. It's like the other way around.
Yeah.
Start off writing like the worst stuff you've ever written and just get better.
So scary.
And then the woman who ran Funny Women, because they run comedy nights as well, obviously. They do one in London and one in Brighton. The woman who ran it in Brighton was like, oh, hey, you've started doing stand-up. Do you want to come do 5 minutes? So I had, in January, so I had
That's
like
good.
2 months to learn. So I bought every book, watched every show.
How much time did you have to do?
5 minutes.
5 minutes. See, it doesn't sound a lot, but
Doesn't sound a lot. But
not that I've ever done
An
comedy, but I know
eternity.
just from
Yeah.
studying comedy and listening to comedians that it's harder than it
Yeah.
sounds.
So 2014, I was like, do you know what I'm going to do? I realised there's a whole comedy world in Brighton that I hadn't really tapped into. And of course, you can write what you want, and you can go and perform it every night, which is so different to being
Lots
an
of open mic
actor.
night places.
Yeah, you can just
That's
pop
great.
along.
That's what you need. That's what you need.
And being around like shit people as well. You're like, I'm not that bad.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. You can. Oh, they're worse than me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel better already.
Yeah, I've been trying to do as much of that at the moment as I can.
Where are places to do comedy around here in Cumbria?
Ulverston have got, and Barrow is a new comedy night in Barrow that started, and there's one in Ulverston, and they've started to do open mic nights. I'm actually going to be working with them to do workshops where people can come along and then they can try out their stuff.
I remember the Source Cafe in Carlisle used to do comedy nights.
Okay.
That- Is it Jason Cook?
No
Northeast comedian. I saw him. He was on TV at one point. I remember. But he was there. He was quite good.
Cool.
Yeah, so I then did some fringe plays in like the May. This is 2014, 6 months. Did some fringe plays. Hated being on a tight script and being directed by
Not
a
what you
man.
wanted to do.
Yeah, chip on my shoulder.
If it was a woman, it would have been fine then.
I don't know. I think just
Criticism
being
is
told
criticism.
what to do and what to say, and I'm like, I'm so used to writing my own stuff and performing
Yeah,
it.
so it wasn't really for you then.
No, and I really enjoyed the plays, and they were little comedy plays. I even got nominated for like best actress or something. It was really exciting.
Ooh,
Nominated.
I've never
cool.
heard that before.
Yeah, it's on my website.
Get on a website.
Oops.
Didn't Google me enough.
Oops.
And then, yeah, and I was like, do you know what? I'd quite like to meet in the middle between stand-up and acting, and that was comedy characters. And I really liked her, a comedian called Anna Morris, and I watched a few of her shows and really liked her and kind of became friends with her and kept in contact. And then I had a massive breakup, so I had to have like 6 months off comedy.
Right.
And just like it was like the big relationship where you're supposed to be moving in and having kids and all that, and then I found out he was cheating and blah blah blah, and it just like pulled the rug from under my feet. So I had 6 months, and then I was like, right, I need to get back on the comedy horse. And I was like, do you know what, I'm going to write my own 1 hour show. And so I did that in 2015. It was something to work towards, and
set yourself a
have
goal.
a deadline, and that went really well. That was made in Cumbria.
Right.
And it was 5 female characters who were quite strong, quite dark. I fed in a lot of my stand-up into the characters' voices.
Was this a one-woman show, though?
Yeah, one-woman show. And then they were punctuated. So it's like 5 10-minute monologues, and then punctuated by, I did like a fake Radio Cumbria. And like linked them all up. It's like a falconer and a children's author and a survival expert and stuff like that. So they're all like facets of my personality. And so I could really play with that, and it was just a really good experience learning how to run a show, and you kind of run it like a business, and just getting experience and getting a crowd. Like I can go to Brighton and I could put a show on next week and know I can fill it because I've got fans,
That's
got
cool.
a following who like my.
So where did you do the show at? What places?
So I did the first year I did Free Fringe, Laughing Horse Free Fringe for Brighton Fringe, and did a bucket on the door. I think you pay like £10 for venue, and then you book it on the door. And then the 2 years after that, I did like a local comedy production company called Lamb Comedy, like in a tiny basement to like 40 people, which is like, I love doing like 40, 50
intimate.
people. Yeah, it's a really
just
nice
the right
audience.
size.
Yeah, so I did Made in Cumbria for 2 years, and then 2016 took Made in Cumbria to Edinburgh. Anna Morris, who mentioned earlier, got into contact with me and said, oh, I want to get some experience directing. Would you be up for me directing your show in Edinburgh? And I was like, yes. And would I be in her show, which was Georgina the Bride, and I was playing her assistant.
For the Fringe?
Yes. This is my first ever Edinburgh Festival, and her show, it's 2016, so her show was at the Ballroom, Voodoo Rooms in Edinburgh, 120 people, and my little venue in Edinburgh was 23 in a hotel, little conference room. But it was good because I could fly out all those people. Yeah. And every single day for 22 days, she sold out.
Wow.
And just spending time with her and learning, and she really helped me with my scripts and just the whole thing of Edinburgh.
The whole experience.
The whole experience, because you're up against other people and you're comparing yourself, and it's all about who's done what. High pressure. Yeah, who's been nominated for an award and who's got a review, and so that was a really good learning experience. And then last year I did Edinburgh again, but I kind of did it by myself. And
how does that work then, to do it by yourself? How does someone get in?
So you may.
I've always wondered this.
Yeah, you
know nothing about it.
So you need to get a venue.
Right.
So
I'm under the impression it costs you money to put it on.
Yeah.
So
you lose so much money.
Yeah, I was going to say,
You lose
all
money.
comedians say it's terrible that side of it, but you can't put a price on the experience.
Yeah. So the last two, like the first year was going out there and just being there, then and being like kind of scripted and stuff. Last year I was a bit more improvising and a bit loose, and I could kind of cope with whatever was thrown at me. So that helped me a lot. But yeah, you lose money. The only people making money are the venues.
Yeah, of course.
But the first year I did it, I kind of emailed my parents and was like,
didn't even call them.
I mean, no. I emailed. I was like, it's really formal. I wanted to get them both at the same time.
This is when she lived at home already as well.
No, it wasn't.
Upstairs. Emailing them downstairs.
It wasn't. I only moved home last year. It wasn't. It was 2 years ago. And I said to them, I was like, look, I'm like 35 and I'm not getting married. I'm not buying a house. I'm not having a baby. You know that money that you would have like spent? Can I just have that to go to Edinburgh?
Yeah, makes sense.
They're so for it. I think they each give me $1,000 each.
Oh, amazing.
Which didn't cover everything, but I was working full time, so I paid for it all myself. And last year I paid for it all myself as well.
So on average, what would it cost someone to do it by themselves?
$3,000, $4,000.
For how long?
A month. Of August.
So how does it work with the venue? You do the same thing, like a multiple nights?
You can go with a production company who run venues.
Does that cost you more?
Yeah, but you've got a nice space that's got all your equipment and stuff and a tech.
You don't have to worry about any of that stuff.
No,
so.
and I went with Sweet Venues for last year and the year before, who take over the Apex in Grassmarket, and you know your equipment's gonna work. Whereas if you do free Fringe, that's better for stand-ups because all you need is a mic.
Yeah.
And my shows are quite theatrical, so I use lighting and I'll use like video or projection.
So you have to go and rehearse all that and set it.
So with Edinburgh, like you arrive Thursday night, your first show is Friday, your tech is at 9 a.m, your first show is at 1. That's what happened last year.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really stressed. And then this year I didn't, because I moved home last year and I've been kind of freelance this year. I was like, I'm not going to go to Edinburgh. Last year was quite hard as well because I was kind of thinking about what I'm going to do in my life. Am I going to leave my full-time job and my safety net of Brighton and stuff like that? So I just saved a load of money this year. But I'd rather go, and I learned last year as well that a lot of the people who are in the press, you know, it says like 10 best jokes of Edinburgh Fringe. That's all decided like months ahead because they've all paid for PR.
It's all money.
And a couple of people I know who got through to the awards had spent like $9,000. You know, Jesus. Including PR, and they'd, you know, if you've got a really tight show,
you've still got to be good though.
Yeah, you still got to be good.
You throw all the money up, but if you're not funny, then it's still not going to work.
Yeah, true. Sure. So I'm not sure about next year, but So and then this year I did Brighton Fringe with a show that was more about me, and I was more me in it. I used a lot of projections. It was set in a circus. It was about mental health. It was about all the changes I've gone through the last year, and about the breakup. Well, a tiny bit about the breakup. Yeah. But about it being a good thing because it led me to here, and like how comedy's kind of saved me, which it did.
It's life, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
You think it's the end of the world at the time, but then you go back and you go, it's actually really good. I'm glad that happened in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Sorry, I just rambled on about that. So that's basically my life.
Yeah, that's what a lot of comedians do. It's themselves. So you kind of expect that, I suppose.
It's the vulnerability thing again.
If they're part of an ensemble,
vulnerability.
Maybe not. But if it's just one person, then that's part of it, I always say.
So that was an experience, and this year I kind of did some crowdfunding and raised $2,000 for Brighton Fringe, and I paid for a director, which felt really nice to have someone go, just stand over there and do that, because you don't know where you're standing.
No.
So my next challenge is basically and what Anna did for me, I feel like I'm doing that for Steph, like giving a leg up onto the next level.
Do you think you will take the plunge and start doing comedy?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been writing stuff for a while now, and I will. Number one, it's hard to do stuff around here.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And it's really scary. I'm not sure if I said that already.
I think if we do
but
a
I
show,
definitely will.
We can kind of, I think the show will help Steph kind of just see the business side of stuff and putting something together from nothing, and just for being a better performer and a better writer, and
definitely
just getting that experience.
You just got to get in there and just get going.
And for me, I've never written with anyone else, so I think that's my next step, to actually work with someone else.
Yeah, if you get the right chemistry.
Yeah.
Hit some comedy gold.
Yeah, and I've already had ideas.
It could be terrible. We really don't know at this stage.
We don't know.
We've got to try.
We'll come back next year and tell you. But even with our podcast, it's given me loads of ideas for little sketches.
Well, it's your own forum to do anything like that you want.
But I do think we have a similar sense of humour and similar ideas. And even this weekend when we were talking about certain ideas, they were like we were just making each other laugh a lot. And
I have this dream of starting a show with 2 body bags on stage and like this uplifting music and kind of coming out these body bags. Yeah, I'm just so on board with it.
I love it. I think it's genius.
I've even like Googled body bags on Amazon. They're like cheap.
Internet search history. What the hell?
What's going on?
What's she gonna do? She's planning something.
Super cheap.
I just made the tech laugh. Yay! My work is done.
Wait till you see our last episode.
They're only £35, and if you go and look, they're black, and they carry up to 300 pounds worth of waste.
Waste?
Is that what they call it?
Yeah.
Waste.
Whatever you put in it is waste.
And someone thinks they've been really funny and left an Amazon review saying about them being like pretending they're a serial killer. That wasn't me.
It was Jane.
It wasn't me. I wish it was.
That's a good idea though.
But I can't believe those are things that you can buy on normal internet pages.
You can get anything on Amazon nowadays.
I test the limits of Amazon, what I can buy, and you can buy a
hatchet and some rope. And
gaffer tape.
You can probably buy the waste for that body bag on Amazon if you search hard enough.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that was a sound. That didn't go down as well.
And then when it's delivered,
cross that off.
There's a knock at your door. The man delivers it, and then there's just like several police vans behind him as well.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with this body bag?
Yeah.
Get in it and be on stage.
I was going to say, have you ever been to watch any comedians doing warm-up gigs when they're working it all out?
Oh God, yeah.
I have never been to see that.
Because a bit in Brighton.
You see them with like bits of paper.
Yeah, bits of paper.
Making notes.
Yeah.
Obviously, it costs like
The
a tenner.
previews,
To like watch like some big comedians
I
working
think
it
that
out.
would make
Or
me
free,
feel
some of them,
a lot
yeah.
better to go and watch some of that maybe.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot coming. I suppose they're fully formed coming to Carlisle
No,
or
I
Fire
need to get
Station.
out there, really, don't I?
Well, it's hard. I think Manchester will be the key for us to go out and try little skits.
Yeah,
and
I've seen
stuff.
Jason Manford do that. It's just like, and then you go and see the final show, and you should like the difference. Like, wow.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, he's kept that one.
Yeah.
And when I started gigging, Catherine Ryan was just kind of coming up the ranks. So I'd be doing gigs with her, and she'd be there like trying out stuff. I've seen a bomb, she's just gone from strength to strength. And Romish as well. He's been going a while. Seen him do test stuff. So everyone on TV, it's quite funny seeing their polished set that I've seen come off a bit of paper. Because they are doing the same stuff for years and years and
They've
years
just
and
been developing it, haven't they?
Yeah, they develop.
I'd quite like to do that. See a comedian over a long period of time, like watching a bit that's like starts off one way and then they change it. And by the end of it, it's something completely different. There's only one original bit that's left in it from the beginning. They've totally changed it. I like watching stuff like that.
That's why the Comedian podcast is so good, though. Is that it's like it has elements of comedy in there, but actually, really, it is just comedians talking through their process and how they've built out a set and. It's so interesting. Yeah, for sure.
Labour of love.
They're still writing right up until Edinburgh and during Edinburgh. So they're kind of writing if they go to like the Australian fringes are like January, February, something at the beginning of the year. So they'll try new stuff there, but they're doing their Edinburgh.
Working towards Edinburgh.
Yeah, so
it's like a tennis player working towards Wimbledon, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's training.
So your year revolves around Edinburgh. So you're working the whole year to get a good hour for Edinburgh, and then you get the good performers either get a run at Soho Theatre. You've got to be invited for that,
right?
And then they'll tour, for the next 8 months or whatever that show they did in Edinburgh. To every country, and then on the side they're trying new material. In Australia they'll start writing their new show, and they're building a new show, and
it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of
huge commitment, isn't it?
When you see that, when you talk about that side of it, it's like,
do you not want to do it now?
Maybe I just.
It's a lot of work. Yeah, it's the commitment of like you gotta have a job as well, trying to fit it all into.
Yeah,
I'm pretty proud of myself that like I worked through my acting diploma. I worked through the last 3-4 years doing comedy.
Yeah.
I haven't been given it on a plate.
No.
I've worked really fucking hard.
Best way to do it.
And that's first 6 months of doing stand-up. You go into a comedy world where people have done certain comedy courses, and there's little cliques and stuff. But Brighton's pretty friendly, but London can be a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah, be a bit of a.
Is it like that with musicians? Is it like that with musicians and bands, or
not so much? Not anymore. No, it's just because there's no money in it now. It's just like you've just got to be good.
Yeah,
You've just
I was really upset after Brighton Fringe this year. I think I ploughed about $3,000 into my show and got about 800 quid back from tickets. I sold like £1,400 of tickets, and the venue took.
That's quite impressive.
Yeah, but the venue took another massive chunk, and I'd already paid them about 500 quid before that. So I was just like, I don't think you can make money. So I think this year, but I wanted a better venue this year, and I had like a cargo, what they called, shipping container that had turned into a theatre.
Right.
So I had that, and it had lights and music, and I could do like I projected on the back wall, massive, So it was quite fancy. So like next year I want to take it back to how I started, free Fringe in a tiny like stage that's smaller than this table, bucket on the door. There's something about that, and then it's just about the comedy and the writing.
See, the old school model is just open mic nights until you keep going back, and then you end up getting paid, and you put you on later and you get paid, and then you become a headliner. Does that still happen? Is that still like of the London Comedy Club and Jongleurs and all that?
Because I was a character comedian, and one of my characters used to do really well, Joy Hope, the children's author. So I'd get, in Brighton, it sounds like really big-headed, but in Brighton I'm a big fish in a small pond. Yeah. And that's why I had to come out of it.
Yeah.
Because in Manchester they don't know who I am. In London some people know who I am, some people don't know who I am. So taking myself out
the feedback's
of
a bit more genuine when you. That's the same for musicians, because they've got the strangers have got no reason to be nice to you or pay you a compliment other than if they really liked you.
Yeah. And then the next step for me, I think we're probably going to go to get from, aren't we? We're going to try to go to LA and check out the comedy scene there, because there's a really nice, there's like an underground comedy scene, and there's the improvisation Like
Yeah,
my
that's really
heroes
exciting.
like Amy Poehler, Tina Fey, Kristen Wiig all did improv, like the Groundlings.
Yeah.
And that I just want to do a course there because I'm in that space. And for me, I
I've
guess
always
it's
wanted
like
to go
with
to
musicians.
the Ice House. I've always wanted to go to the Ice House, Pasadena.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's where all the comedians go there.
Yeah.
There's so many famous places though, isn't there?
Yeah.
There is.
Need to go on a little pilgrimage.
But that
Comedy
improv
store.
scene there is something like, I remember when, I can't remember who brought it up first. It was another one of those moments where one of us mentioned the LA thing and going to check out the comedy scene. It was like, me too, I want to do that. Oh,
Exactly the
maybe
same.
we could do it together.
Yeah.
Totally
Road
different though,
trip.
isn't it? It's a total different like ball game going over there.
And
Yeah,
it'll
yeah.
test because it'll be like another level up.
Yeah.
Because I guess when you conquer London as well, you can be a big fish in a small pond. And then it's like, oh, the next thing. Like I just want to see, because a lot of the writing rooms in LA as well will have like for Amy Schumer's show, they'll have like 12 comedians around a table, and I think that's quite an exciting way to work. To just go
It's
out and
interesting in
check
different
out.
ways because some people just do it completely on their own. And other people have like a team that helps them
Yeah.
put it
Yeah.
together. And it's just whatever works for you, I suppose.
Yeah.
But you've got to try it, haven't you?
I'd like a team, I think.
Like a team, yeah.
a team.
You say that now, but you might find out that you don't.
Yeah, it's true. Hate them all.
There might be too many people, too many
Yeah.
cooks and all
Too
that.
many.
Yeah, that's true.
Because at the end of the day, it wants to be you want to be coming across.
Yeah,
If it's
sure. At
somebody-
the end of the day, I need to do one gig first, I think, and then work it
yeah,
out
we've
from there.
built this up pretty high. We need to get going.
Probably before I get a room of writers that I'm dreaming about, should probably just do that one gig and get some of the stuff out. But yeah,
It's fun though. I mean,
fun.
creating an hour show can be daunting, but can also be really exciting. And we've got full control over what we want to say and what we want to do, what messages we've got. What
I wouldn't even know where to begin.
Draw a line, 0 to 60. That's how I do it. And like, right, we have to fill this up. What do we want to fill it with? What
Suppose
do
you've
we
got
want
to
to
do
say?
parts of it and time it and see how much time have we got, what have we got
Yeah.
left.
yeah.
If you're doing
that must
character
be
show,
hard.
you like write 5 characters, 50 minutes, and
Yeah.
then what's in between. I'm
Mm.
quite methodical
I think
when it comes to
probably have to
writing
be.
it. That. Yeah.
I think I would have to be if I was
I
gonna
think
do that.
but I'm like that as well, and that's what I really enjoyed about the workshop was like my perspective of it before going into that was like, oh my god, I'm not just like firing it out. So to go into a space where it was a bit more methodical and there was a bit of like science behind it and how
Yeah.
to structure stuff made me feel so much more comfortable and like, oh no, you know what, I can do this.
I think I'd struggle to remember it without written down because I
Yeah.
struggle to remember lyrics.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a lot of my characters have notebooks.
I suppose
or
after you've done it a lot of times, you may get there,
Genius.
but
a
I always
cheat.
feel like
Yeah,
I'd have to have a
definitely.
safety net down there just
the
in
order.
case.
Yeah.
I have the order pinned where I'm getting changed, and then I have like bits on notes and bits on props sometimes as well.
But then I've seen like Eddie Izzard where he'll talk for like nearly 3 hours
Yeah.
and he goes off on complete tangent and has to ask the audience, what was I talking about again? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Birds. Oh yeah.
The improv of like certain stand-ups just absolutely baffles me. Like I think once you're comfortable and you can expand a joke a bit more and do a bit of improv around it, but the idea of going on with like a couple of words and thoughts written down and making it up makes me feel physically sick.
Have you ever done any
Yeah.
improv before?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
I've done improv like I feel more comfortable as a character improving that
Right.
I would be. It's improving like jokes would be a different thing.
I
But
left a lot of gaps in my show last year to improvise with the audience and see
Yeah.
what they'd say and see what I'd say on top of that. I kind
Yeah.
of, they say like jump off the cliff and make your wings on the way down. That's what it's like
Ah.
when you.
Nope.
She's like,
No, I'll start on the ground.
I'm
I'll just
good.
jump.
I'm not even going near the edge.
But that was really nice for me from being so tightly scripted and so
Yeah.
to be then like, does it really matter? And I can play with stuff. And people are very predictable. They'll say the same thing.
Yeah, that's true.
And you can just you
Patterns.
just have an answer for
Yeah,
everything.
it gives you a better chance to come up with a better comeback though, isn't it? Shoot them down.
Yeah. I love all my audiences. I get them involved and make them feel special.
So has your comedy always been character based, or have you ever tried normal, just material?
So stand up, yeah, I did that for 6 months when I
Right.
was starting out.
Right.
And then I sent, so this year I just did the BBC New Comedy Awards Heats in
Right.
Manchester, the Comedy Store. And I'd sent them, the deadline was approaching, and I'd sent them some of my stand up 2 years ago and they turned it down. So I sent the same one again and got through. So I was
Right.
like, oh, I need to learn how to do stand up again. So I just did some of that recently, but I do need to put, my mentors are like, you know, the other comedians in the business, like you need to get like 5-10 minutes together that you could just take out. But I'm not too interested in doing lots of comedy clubs and stag party. That doesn't really interest me. I'm quite theatrical with my
Right.
work. I
Like
think.
an actual show rather than just.
Yeah, I mean, I'll do 10 minutes here and there of a character or whatever, but that's where I'm most comfortable.
Yeah.
But I don't know what I want to say in my new stand-up. Like my old stand-up, I talk about being from the Lake District and it being famous for finding dead wives at the bottom of the lake and stuff like that. And like being with my granddad as a kid and poking like dead sheep and doing autopsies on sheep with
Oh, I've
sticks.
all done
And
that.
yeah, no, it's
Right.
great. And so yeah, it's quite interesting. I wouldn't be able to do like a whole hour of just stand-up.
Right.
And sometimes I've sat through some absolute dog shit
Yeah,
of like.
yeah.
As even people who like the Pleasance in Edinburgh or whatever, and they're established, I'm like, this is shit.
It is the same for
It's
bands as well to
hard.
do now, because it's not
Yeah.
just you don't want to if you pay, especially you paid money to see them. It's not you just want to see. You don't want to see 5 guys or 4 guys playing some songs. You want to see a show,
Yeah.
like what happens in between the songs, like the singer
Banter.
talking, banter.
Yeah.
How do they transition from one song straight into another?
Yeah.
Like no awkward silences, and that takes a long time to work. It's the same with comedy as well, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm like, oh, I should write. I've got ideas written down, but it would probably end up in the show as a character or as a sketch or something.
Right.
But it's like, what do you want to say? Like, what do I want to say in my stand-up? What do I want to talk about?
What's the message?
What's important to me? Yeah.
Need like a rough outline before you dive into it, I
Yeah.
suppose.
Yeah.
I suppose that you don't want to
like-
repeat yourself as well.
Watched so
Yeah.
many. I've been to so many open mics where it's like young male comedians all
Have
talking
you?
about ISIS and
Yeah.
their dicks and Tinder. That's like the 3 top things. And you're like, oh, another Tinder joke? Yeah, okay. Just delete that.
Delete all that.
Dick pics. Take you.
10 minutes on Tinder.
I've got a show now.
Yeah.
So back to the podcast then. Where else have you been of interest?
Oh yeah.
Back to the
that old
first question.
chestnut. We did, and then we did Muncaster Castle. We did that over 2
Two-parter.
episodes because it was fucking
We
fantastic.
had like amazing weather, didn't we? For like
Oh,
2
yeah.
Oh,
months.
yeah.
It was incredible.
We were
Unbelievable.
blessed. We were truly blessed.
I
Been in LA or
bought-
something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I bought jean shorts from TK Maxx.
Yeah.
Wow.
Fancy.
I only got to wear them twice on the
Yeah,
podcast.
because I told her never to bring them again. No, they were
My mum-
amazing.
My mum hates
They
them.
were incredible. What did we do after that? We went Muncaster, then we did
Bonus.
Beatrix Potter.
Beatrix Potter.
Well,
Oh yeah, I've been there. That's cool.
It's intense.
It's intense. Also, the woman that does the voiceover on the video has my voice.
Yeah. The introvert, you go and sit in a
have
room.
you got a sound alike?
Yeah.
Like it was,
Yeah.
it was us two. Bearing in mind that a lot of the places that we go to on this podcast happen to be very popular with young families with young children, and then there'll just be me and Jane in the
Fit
queue,
dads. All the dads are like, who are these two? Oh yeah, married with kids.
and they're all here. So we were in this tiny little room which introduces you before you go into the world. A little bit of a video about Beatrix, and this girl starts speaking, and
Yeah,
we
it was you.
literally were like. And it was my voice. It was genuine. It was like the Little Mermaid.
Did you have to look at her and go, what are you
Yeah,
talking?
she did. She was like,
I was like,
God, did I forget I did this?
Like,
You thought you'd done it and forgot
yeah,
about it.
I did.
I don't know.
I said, this isn't on my CV.
You should have started going.
Yeah, I should have done. It was weird. So we tried and hunt her down.
Or we did one tweet
We
and
did
one
tweet.
Facebook.
Yeah, but if you're listening, get in touch.
She'll be massive. She'll be really fat and totally opposite to you. This fat
Either
girl,
way,
but
she's my
looks-
sister.
It is funny though,
Yeah.
when it's like
Same in the face.
Same face. Male.
it is
It was
funny
a
with
male
radio
one.
though. When you hear people's voices, you build an image of what they look like,
Yeah.
and then sometimes it fits and sometimes
That's so
it doesn't.
True.
Yeah,
And you
sometimes
go,
you're like, oh,
"You
that's a
look nothing."
sexy voice. And then you're like, ugh.
People do
trog.
not think that about me for sure. They're like, oh God, this screechy 5-year-old who keeps swearing. What is going on?
Screechy five-year-old.
I'm screechy. What else? Oh,
Just when you get excited.
so we did the one about the ghost book, the Cumbrian.
Did Sean Frane's
book.
Bless you for
Um,
listening.
So as well as
Those
going to
two.
places,
Yeah.
you do like talk about
Local-
like literature
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
whatever.
yeah. Sometimes we just don't have a full day. So
It's really hard because we live like an hour and a quarter.
Yeah, I was gonna
part
say, yeah.
drive
Yeah.
or 2
Yeah.
hours on the train.
and I work Monday to Friday,
Yeah,
so it
she's
is like
full time.
So how much do you plan an episode before you actually do it?
We plan when we're going.
Right.
Plan we're going. Don't do any research.
No, we feel like it's
Whatsoever.
better that way.
It's better. It's fresh.
Whatever works.
Yeah, it's like when we learn stuff as we go, then you're
Yeah,
learning.
Yeah.
So
If we can't be bothered, I'll tell you.
yeah, exactly.
Can't be asked.
Where else have we gone?
Can't fucking remember. Well, Steph was away one week, and then my
Oh,
family
yeah.
went on the Little Ratty, and my dad listens to the podcast. Like, he started listening to it in bed, and he's like, I can't remember what was at the end, but it was very funny because he falls asleep. It goes into his subconscious.
Wakes up with all this knowledge.
All this knowledge about
I know all
Lancaster
this.
Castle.
Yeah.
So I did a podcast with him about the Little Ratty,
Oh, right,
and he was
yeah,
really
yeah.
made up to be, and he keeps being like,
Lal
when I
Ratty.
went- Lal Ratty is.
You'll get people right in and
Yeah,
tell
yeah.
you it's Lal Ratty.
Lal
'cause we
Ratty.
did.
Even
Nearly
in
shut us down.
Yeah, in cafes, they even correct us.
Carlisle Castle. That was the other
Carlisle
one.
Castle.
Oh, yeah.
Carlisle Castle. We did that one.
Cool.
Fuck.
That might be it.
I can't fucking remember.
So you do one a week?
Tried.
We tried to.
We've only
Yeah.
missed 2 weeks.
Yeah, we had a bit of a break.
Which we tend to like try and pack in a few and then get them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a month
Sometimes what we
ahead.
do. 'Cause when we initially started, we were going to do one a week, but then we quickly realised it's quite hard. So it's quite a lot of
Life.
content to put out.
Get the
yeah.
studio
Yeah.
set up and
So we
just
do one
as
every
many.
2 weeks, so 2 a
Oh,
month,
cool.
and that
Yeah.
just works best.
Yeah.
Especially now, trying to like schedule bands and people, and it's like it's better. It works better to spread it out a bit more and
Sure.
Yeah.
allow a bit more time. Because if it's like shit, we've only got 7 days to get the next one.
Yeah, exactly.
Now-
Then
now
it
we're
takes
booked
the
up to,
joy
like,
out of
Christmas,
it if
so-
we- yeah.
real?
Oh, that's good.
So it works better that way.
We
are
kind
not.
of have a. I made a plan. I made an Excel sheet.
I
We're
had a
gonna
pa-
be okay.
I had a power nap on Saturday and came back awake, and she's like,
I've done it.
Just done a spreadsheet on
I've
the
had a
next
moment of
few
inspiration.
yeah,
few
it,
episodes.
it was your birthday, so
Yeah.
you allow that. And it was mostly what we'd already decided. I just put it into a nice table.
It does feel good to get it written down. I
because we
think.
were just
Yeah.
gonna
See
do
it.
6.
I
Sure.
need that.
We're gonna do 6 episodes. Let's say that's season 1.
Oh,
then,
yeah.
Then have
I don't
a
get this season.
break.
I don't get this
No.
season.
No,
So we just
didn't.
ran straight through
Yeah.
it.
Your audience aren't going to mind if you tell them that you haven't we're taking
No,
a
yeah,
few
no
weeks
one
off.
gives a
Just
shit.
tell
I
them.
think it was like before we
In terms-
started. This again was that thing on the first episode. We were like, we'll do one season, see how it goes. Just
Yeah.
like so you had a back out in
Yeah.
case episode 3 you're like, this is not working. You are not funny.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I was pretty impressed because there's so many people in Brighton and comedy friends who have been like, let's start a podcast, let's do this. I've got the stuff, I know how to edit. And just so flaky. Whereas Steph, she really wants it. She really wants.
If nothing else, I'm keen.
Yeah, she's keen and
Yeah.
organised, which is another
It's a
good
key skill.
thing.
Yeah. I got given one of the main parts in a dance show when I was in high school purely for being enthusiastic, not from
She's very enthusiastic.
being able to dance that well.
And that's
Right.
what I need. I
So-
don't need flaky comedians who are like, oh, I can't do that. 'cause
I'm not even a
in
comedian,
bed."
so you know.
Not yet.
No.
So it's like living. It's almost like living. If you were in London, I was in Brighton, and we're still making this podcast work.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Actually,
Well, some quite big podcasts are people doing it remotely, like by Skype and stuff like
Yeah,
that. Not even in
that's
the same
true.
room. So
Don't give her
Magic.
ideas.
I know. What you mean? We
So-
never have to see each other?
have you ever
Ever
thought about
again?
having a guest on, like as well? Obviously,
have
you've had your dad, but that's because she wasn't there.
We've discussed it, but
maybe,
we've not
maybe
like,
Marc, are
followed
you
it up.
available?
I was available.
Yeah.
But like you say, that you went somewhere and you could
Yeah.
have someone who like say you went to a castle and you had someone who knew all about that castle and you had them on the show.
Yeah, well, Lancaster Castle, I emailed them 2 weeks before we actually went and didn't hear anything. And then I was joking, we'd been and recorded it, and we were sat in a pub, and I jokingly said, I bet I've got an email from Lancaster Castle telling us we can go for free. And I had,
And she had.
like an hour previous.
Oh,
And it
God.
was like the owner would have met us. But the other thing is, like, we're a bit worried because we are really sweary and we're very honest if we don't like stuff.
You just have to
Yeah.
tell them.
And
be
if,
honest.
you know,
Yeah.
we're not making podcasts for the National Trust. We're
Not making it to get
No.
into National Trust free.
Well,
I've got
no.
a job. I can afford
You're a bit like
it.
a podcast version of like TripAdvisor
Yeah.
in some
Yeah.
respect. Part of your
Yeah,
part of your
just don't
thing.
kind of.
have to like answer to anyone.
No,
Yeah.
But
it's
the-
your opinion anyway. At the end of the day.
Yeah,
so.
and we have to own that. And
The owner of Lancaster Castle is supposed to be quite sweary. My nana remembers him swearing once talking to my granddad years ago.
Never forgotten it.
yeah,
forgotten it.
horrified.
He'd
Wakes
said-
up screaming about it.
It
still.
said, do you know all these tapestries are taking... I was only like 7 apparently at the time. And my granddad had been talking to him. My granddad loved to talk to people. And my granddad said, no. And he went, we cleaned them with cow piss. And my nana had gone like...
So Wait,
told
you
me
just said
that.
piss.
Cow piss. And my nana was like,
Piss?
what?
Oh, wow.
That was
So-
bad back in those
Can't
days.
swear in
though.
front of you now.
Piss
Yeah.
was
Not allowed.
No. Jesus.
So, yeah, I mean, well up for it. There's a local author who writes crime near where I live. We could have her on. We'd love to talk to you as well.
Yeah. If
Yeah.
you've gone anywhere around
Are you
here,
Cumbrian
Yeah.
then? Are you?
I know I'm from Newcastle originally, but I've lived here for like 20 years
Oh
now.
yeah, you're
so.
in. You're fine.
That's
So-
okay.
But
That's fine. That'll work.
Yeah, I'll come on if you want to come anywhere around here. I know.
Can we come
Right
here
here.
and record?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want.
Yeah.
We couldn't handle this.
If you're gonna go anywhere to like Lowther Castle or anywhere around here,
We've
I'll be up
only
for-
got 2
I'll be up for-
microphones.
I was gonna
as
say,
well.
yeah, your Zoom's only got 2 inputs, though, isn't it?
Yeah. We'd have to share.
Yeah.
We'd work it out.
You
Yeah.
can get you can get a splitter though.
We could get a
Get
splitter.
two inputs in one.
Getting a bit advanced now.
Stuff like
Something you'd have to think about though. If a good guest came up, you'd have to
Yeah.
think, how do we do it? How would we do it?
We have thought about the hairy bikers.
We'd love to get the hairy
If they're
bikers
listening.
Why
on.
not?
They're doing a book tour, but they're not going to Barrow, which I thought was a bit
Oh.
upsetting. Usually they do Barrow,
Damn.
Waterstones.
You'd have to get a
That's
Zoom
where I could've got
H6.
them.
It's got 4 inputs.
Really?
On it. Yeah, but
Oh.
it's expensive. It's like 350
Write
quid.
that down.
But yeah, we got big. We just when we started doing the podcast, we were like, we want this to be our jobs. Probably
Yeah,
like you,
same
you're
here,
like,
same
I
here.
want this.
But
to
I
be
did a lot of research. Like we spent a year just fiddling about, faffing about, doing tests and trying different equipment
Did
before we
you?
actually launched the first one because I wanted to do it properly.
I'm just like, let's get on and learn along the way.
Yeah, but it's different when you're doing it in studio though.
Oh, yeah,
I would have done.
definitely.
I would have done
Yeah.
exactly what you did if I was
Yeah.
just doing it out and about.
Now
Yeah,
it's a really nice
exactly.
setup with cameras.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's the? Is that one?
External.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is one up there.
Oh, that's
Hi.
that's.
These curtains are like
I
reminding me
forget.
of school, my old school.
It smells like nativity in here.
Yeah.
Oh, it
I didn't know
smells like
Nativity
Christmas.
had a smell until she arrived.
It
Apparently
does,
it does.
though.
I guess so.
Nativity.
It does, though.
Bottle that and sell it.
I
Yeah.
love
Nativity
these.
for men.
The new
Amazing.
Yankee candle.
Oh yeah.
I want this.
Sniff it.
Nativity.
Hold on a second.
What-
It just smells like
what
assemblies
would
in
it
like
smell
primary
With,
school.
like camel shit.
I don't know.
Tea towels.
Tea
Tea
towels.
towels and rope. That's what it would smell like.
Is it cultural inappropriation now dressing up white kids as? Do you know what I mean?
I'm sick of hearing about stuff like
Yeah.
that. It drives me up the fucking
I've
wall.
come from
Probably.
Brighton. I've left all that behind me.
You can't. Basically, you can't do anything anymore.
You can't.
You just might as well give up.
Can't
Don't be that
racist.
guy, Mark.
No.
Don't be that guy. But yeah.
Can't be racist.
I think that would be my style of
can't be
comedy.
sexist.
Just being like down and out and just saying, let's just can't. You can't do anything anymore.
I can't even make a joke. I
No.
can't even make jokes. The
How,
end.
how old are you?
37.
Oh, yeah, same age.
Oh, matching.
Imagine since Sunday. This is totally unrelated, but
That's fine.
Steph was picking me up at the station and I was hungry and I thought she's gonna be hungry and there's a McDonald's there by Penrith
Yeah,
Castle.
they know where to put them, don't they?
Yeah, so
Oh, genius.
I hadn't been in a McDonald's in over 15 years.
Next to a train station,
I know.
across from a school.
Yeah, and I
Wow.
walked in. I was like, "What is this sci-fi place?" It felt like I was in a spaceship, and like
Do
ordered.
it on the walls
Found a woman who worked there. Ordered these.
A
things.
human.
I was
A real life
like,
human.
she was like, "What?"
Yeah.
Turns out she was a robot and all.
She was. So yeah, first time in 15 years I've been in a McDonald's.
15 years.
15
I know,
years,
Wow.
and it's going to be another
Ludicrous.
15 till I go back in again.
Ludicrous, that's the right word.
Meanwhile,
So I turned 37.
Do you not do
2
fast
days
food?
in.
Yeah.
No, I'm really healthy. Yeah.
Are you vegan?
No. But I'm gluten-free, dairy-free, and I have been since like about 16 years.
yeah.
Now it's become fashionable.
Yeah.
Because of allergies.
She
and
was
that.
doing it
Yeah.
before it was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think back in the day, people just like they didn't know.
Yeah.
I'm just ill all the
Yeah,
time. I don't know what
we
it is.
just have matching
can't eat
stomach
anything.
conditions.
We have
so-
IBS really bad, like
Yeah.
so bloated all the time, and because we're skinny as well, it looks ridiculous. Well, for
Bread
me
in
and-
it, bread that gets you.
So my
Yeah.
mum's like, "Oh, I'll try your gluten-free bread," and then she'll be fine. And then my dad will like buy,
A normal.
normal life, and then she's up all night going,
He's
"Oh,
sweating around. Don't tell him.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, my stomach is so bad." I'm like, "Yes, because oh god, it's just an ongoing."
It's weird
battle
how it didn't
keeping thing."
exist, but people must have been suffering just
Yeah, I
in
mean,
silence.
I've
it's-
been silently burping all the way through this
Yeah.
because I smashed a veggie burger just as we got in here. So I'm
Happy
sorry
days.
if any
So
of
how was
that's
your
ever been
first
picked up.
McDonald's experience for 15 years?
For just a large chips, it's all right.
Oh,
It's very
okay, right.
salty. Very
Yeah,
salty.
very salty,
Couldn't have anything else because bread based.
don't think I could do without bacon sarnies. I couldn't get past that.
That's apparently what turns vegetarians the most is a bacon sandwich, the smell of bacon.
Yeah.
Apparently, I don't know what it is.
But
like
if someone's cooking bacon, I feel like I can hear the pig screaming. It's like that bacon is haunted, and that sound, in my head, my imagination, I'm like, they're getting. I'm just going to demonstrate on stage.
Yeah, I do get all that, and I feel really bad, but I'm still eating bacon sarnies.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I can't digest red meat. There we go.
Poor
I'm just
little
pig.
But you're so delicious.
That's like at Christmas, all the turkeys. Oh, poor turkey.
Poor turkey.
Yeah. Well, with a mouthful of turkey.
Yeah. It's that classic Lee Evans, isn't it? Do you think there's a turkey now? Somewhere going, Mom, Dad. I think Lee Evans is my all-time favourite comedian.
Is he?
I like him.
Gets very sweaty, doesn't he?
He does. After about 5 minutes, soup ruined.
Yeah. That might be my thing as well. I'm yet to have a gimmick, so we'll just see.
Never looks like it does in the catalogue. When you get it, does it? So fucking lawnmower this. I love that style of comedy.
Your niche will be like burping or
farting, yeah, for sure.
Can we tell a story about what happened in the charity shop the other day?
Well, you have to fucking do it now, you bitch.
Brilliant.
You do.
We'll get more followers.
You do it. Yeah, I'll do it.
We'll get more
Fuck it.
listeners.
Yeah.
I farted on the podcast before. So
audibly.
let's go in.
We're in scope.
No.
Right.
You'll have to listen to find out.
Turn it really loud.
We're in scope. We're looking at we were looking at DVDs or something. She's mortified. Watch her go very red.
Zoom.
So she's stood
There's a
up.
shot. Tech.
Looking at a shot.
Is it actually Zoom?
Full screen.
I'm going to set the scene.
Full screen.
Scope.
There we go.
It might.
I'm fine for now. She's not dropped it yet. I haven't dropped it yet. Oh, that was a joke. Write that down.
Yeah.
Go on. I'm stalling.
She's just like trying to, So we're in scope in Lancaster.
You don't need to zoom.
I'm trying.
I just meant go full screen.
Here we go.
It's all good.
Don't zoom on us. We're in scope, looking at a shelf. I think we're looking at DVDs because we're looking for ghost things.
Yeah.
She stood up. I go down, just down to look on the next shelf. She's her ass is there, and she just farts.
She's like, shit, I thought that was going to be silent.
It was like quite a,
it was one of them, you
like
know,
a
you're
really
just
tight asshole.
Yeah.
And I looked up at her and went, "Did you just fart?"
In my face.
And she said, "Yeah, I forgot myself."
And there's your comedy special right there.
Oh, fuck me. No, it was the fact was, I was stood there.
And I was like, I'm just. She said, I thought you'd gone. I was like, just because I went down on the floor, you thought I disappeared.
Stay full screen. Stay full screen.
Reaction.
I literally I'm just going to tell you my side of the story because I think it's only fair.
Okay, yeah. In the court of law.
I was looking through the DVDs and I'd already been trying to hold in this fart for the past half an hour walking around the shops.
It's not good to hold it in.
It's not good.
Really
it's not healthy. Not when you've got a stomach condition, Jane. You should know, of all people.
I have got one, I do know, yeah.
So I literally was just looked around and out of my peripheral, which I trust.
Disappear. It's really good playing hide and seek.
Jane,
I've gone.
She's gone.
It's like when them dogs who can't see their owners. It was like that.
Well, you have to understand that when me and Jane are together, she's always in my peripheral. I can almost always trust that sense.
I'm 6 foot
She's
tall.
always somewhere in my peripheral.
She can find me because I'm
always
high.
got an eye on her. So I kind of took that in and she'd gone. She'd bloody gone. So I just let it out and it made a sound. And in my head, I was like...
I got away with that.
And I was literally like, oh, well, shit happens. It didn't. But that's another good one. And
They're both writing the same jokes down.
I literally heard
shit and piss, Mark. Shit and piss.
I literally heard this little voice go, "Did you just fart?" And it was for me, it was like slow-mo going.
I went, "Is that you?"
Oh, you're there.
Squatted at my arse level, right? I'm just going, and at that point, when you've ever done one of those farts that's meant to be silent and it's definitely you've heard it, and there's a split second where you have a chance to either pretend it wasn't you and say nothing or just admit to it and own it. And she looked at me dead in the eye and was like, "Did you just fart?" And I had to just go, "Yeah, I did." And I was
You said I
mortified.
forgot myself.
I did go. Sorry, I just forgot myself.
It's a classic line. Classic.
I was just so relaxed in scope. I was reading
Clearly,
DVDs. I thought you'd gone. Because you said you were going to the other shop, Jane. You said you were going to the other shop.
I said after that, I said I'm going to the other shop.
Yeah.
Wow.
But there was a man. There was a man, wasn't there, laughing? But I was so.
Yeah, there's
Was
somebody else.
there a man?
Somebody else here.
I didn't give a shit about anyone else. Like,
She was like, I'm going red. Just go. Just go.
just leave.
And then we had to share a bed together that night.
Yeah, but we were both. That was like the
Yeah.
disclosure. Like, look, we can share a bed. We're both scared. We both have stomach conditions. One of us might wake up the other with a fart. Let's just get out of there right now.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you're really nervous because of all the ghosts, aren't
Well,
you?
exactly.
Yeah, it's funny though. Your whole body tenses up, but your bowels relax when you're nervous. It's weird.
Weird. A
Mine
nightmare.
were very tense.
Also, very heavy, very good quality, but very heavy duvets. So you can find
Yeah.
yourself in a situation where you've done a little fart, you think you're safe, and then you move the duvet and it's released.
Dutch oven.
Oh, in the morning you go, that was from yesterday.
Yeah.
That was still there.
Yeah, yeah. So
Sleeping alone tonight after that veggie burger.
Well, that whole
Probably.
the comedy in that of you bending down and she thinking you're gone. That's a bit like that famous Only Fools and Horses. You know when the bar opens. But at the end,
Oh,
he's falling down. Trig's there going. That's one of the funniest bits I think of the whole sketch. He's going,
Your
"Where's he
trigger.
gone?"
just my life.
Keep it
Just
cool,
living
Oscar.
my
You know what I mean?
Oh my god.
Keep it cool.
It's like classic Pink Panther comedy
Yeah.
where
it
someone's
is.
trying to
Yeah.
shoot him and he sneezes and the bullet goes over his head.
Yeah.
Just like slapstick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
Nailed
I
it.
think if I was going to get in comedy, I would like to write sketches.
Would
Be,
you?
be part of a team that writes something that gets on. I
Yeah.
like Saturday Night Live kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That would be cool. I like to. I wouldn't want to do it on my own. I wouldn't want to be solo. I'd like to be with part of a team.
responsible for it.
I think I've had the control of writing for myself and performing myself. And now I'm like, even with director, I had to give up a bit of power, but that was quite nice. And now writing too, like, I think that's going to be that's the next step in my comedy career. And then
The only step in mine.
the first step.
So,
The
yeah.
first step.
First little steps.
So have you got some
Yeah.
places lined up for upcoming episodes?
Yeah, I've got a whole Excel sheet and I can't remember what any of them are.
Keswick Pencil Factory.
Keswick Pencil Factory, because we heard it was haunted.
We've had a reader. Our readers get in touch
Yeah.
and tell us ghost stories.
Oh, that's what I was
We've
going to
got
ask you
so
about.
many.
Listeners,
Who is
yeah.
your audience? Well, who is your audience? Do you have a demographic?
We do have a demographic.
It's mostly women at the moment.
Yeah,
Because
between
who do you
25
host your podcast with?
Audio Boom.
Do they give you good stats?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spotify.
Because we would Libsyn.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like
I was gonna
to
use
town,
them.
to town, specific towns.
Yeah,
where it's popular.
towns. Yeah, we
Yeah.
get towns and cities.
Yeah. It's
All-
quite
all
varied
around the
actually
world
in
as well.
place. Like, and not all of it, not as much. There is a lot in Cumbria, but it's split across
Yeah, same
towns
for
and
us.
stuff.
It's
So
mostly women, and it's like 25 to 35
yeah.
to begin with, and it's catching up with guys. But we have people who who don't live in Cumbria but are from Cumbria who've got in touch and said,
Well,
"Oh, I've been
yeah.
listening to this, and you should go to so and so, and you
Yeah.
should do this, and I've got this ghost
That's a good
story."
idea because people will tell
Yeah.
you where to go.
Yeah,
I think there's something in that people who are from similar areas, like rural counties or places where you've been brought up in smaller villages, like you're from tourist towns where your whole like upbringing has been full of tourists, and being around those kind of places, like people connect with that kind
Yeah.
of
You know
our
what it's
take
like.
on that and our angle on going to, because I mean all these castles are the same probably throughout the country. Let's be real.
I found a map
maybe
with
cut that out.
all of the Cumbrian castles. Oh, no.
Cool. Well,
Sounds
that would
very
be good.
exciting.
Tick all them off.
I'm gonna
So
tick
we've done
them off.
all.
Sure.
I've got a map and we need to put it up somewhere and put the
Oh,
pins
that
in
would
where
be
we've been.
good.
I don't think we're
Yeah.
going to run out of places to go.
No.
things to
No, I don't
do.
think
No,
so.
because
At
like
all.
as your audience grow, people will tell you stuff that you didn't even know.
Yeah.
Places
Yeah.
to go. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, never even thought of that.
And I think there's a thing in guests as well, and having different perspectives to make fun of is interesting. And
Well, I think eventually to have guests, well, like when you upgrade your setup, will open it up to more possibilities as well. Because I think
Definitely.
if you approach somewhere when you've got a reputation and say we're coming to your place, they'll open it up for you and they'll like give you an experience that you probably wouldn't have if you just rocked up and just said we're doing a podcast.
Yeah,
They don't know who you are.
We want.
Yeah.
We wrote a list of all the things we want out of it, don't we? And there's like
Good
Yeah.
idea.
free
That's a
accommodation,
good idea.
Free
Yeah,
accommodation.
exactly.
free
Well, yeah.
fleeces,
Because if you've got enough of a following, then you're doing them a favour. So they accommodate you. Yeah. It works both ways.
A camper van got in contact with us about they'd give us a reduction if we were staying in a camper van.
Oh, and that
aeroplane place.
Yeah.
Free
is it
aeroplane.
Paragliding or
no? It's like something
gyrocopter.
Like gyroplanes with tube. Yeah, the guy who runs that, I can't remember his name or his business, but he's probably the only one in Cumbria. But he's offered us free goes in that.
Yeah, which would be good.
We just need to make a donation to hospice.
Because the other ways to make money is obviously people do Patreon where your listeners pay a certain amount a month.
Yeah.
Or if you have enough downloads, you can sponsor. You read out like a thing at the beginning or
How many downloads do you need to do that?
We need over 10,000 a month.
Is it?
No, I think it's about 5,000. Depends on your niche. Depends on what you do.
5,000 a month.
No, per episode.
Oh shit!
per month in 30 days. So after 30 days, you put out an episode. You need to have around about getting over 5,000. But with Cumbria though, I think it's different. I think you'd probably get more. You wouldn't have to go do that many to get that. Yeah. Because it's so spread out. I think you wouldn't need to get that far. I don't think.
Yeah. About 480,000 people live in Cumbria.
There you go.
Yeah, I did the research.
You had that on the top of your head.
I
just had that there ready to go.
Yeah, Wikipedia. I researched it. But yeah, I mean, the goal is to then get we've got a following who just we've got a lot of people on Instagram who are always keen fans. It's a bit weird when they're people you don't know.
Are you still evolving it as a show, or you've pretty much found out?
It's evolving.
It's definitely evolving. Yeah,
the bonus episodes are good because we can just be us having a chat. Yeah, and I like that about My Favorite Murder. That's what they do, and we'll read out listener stories and friends' tales, and they kind of enjoy that. And then the main episodes.
Yeah.
It's just the premise is us turn up, try out something Cumbrian, and talk about it.
Yeah, that's
and not set in parameters.
You've got to do an episode on top of a fell at some point.
Oh yeah,
yeah. We do need to do some more outdoorsy stuff.
Really windy.
I feel
it's really windy, so you'd have to bring a windbreak.
Kind
of thing. Yeah,
just build it around us.
Or hide behind a cairn or whatever they call it at the top.
Oh yeah,
yeah. We could do on Adam Buxton walking through.
Oh yeah, with his dog. Yeah,
maybe Grisdale Forest.
Just that in the background.
We've got to go to Grisdale Forest because that's supposed to be really haunted. Because
I don't think I can do a spooky forest.
I know we won't be in that car park after 7 o'clock.
No, okay, good.
Because it's where the prisoner of war camps. For me as well, it's really good because I'm connecting with my family history. As I say, my family been in Kirby-in-Furness, Broughton area, the Postlethwaites for over 300 years. The Postlethwaites, as far as they can trace that back. But just finding about great granddads who went off to war, and one of my dad's granddad was a prisoner of war, and he was going to get killed by the Germans, and then they set him free because he was caught putting leaflets out of aeroplanes, telling them,
oh my goodness,
telling them it's a bad idea to do the war. And he had a metal plate in his head, and then he went to Coniston Priory, which is now the Buddhist center and stuff. My links with all these local places, it makes them more alive and more special to learn about the history. And just finding out, Grisdale Forest, they've put the gift shop on it now, but it was the building where they put all the Germans that were caught, all the Nazis, and it's supposed to be so haunted, ridiculously haunted. We've seen
let's go.
Yeah, let's go
in the day.
But yeah, that might be fun. Walk around and talk. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
No, I love the concept of it. I think you guys are running out of time because you have to get going for your train soon.
I think I've missed it. Don't worry.
What time is it?
It was the quarter to. There's another one at.
No, it's only
we'll make
25 past.
We'll make it.
It's only 5 minutes to the train station from here.
Yeah, we'll be fine.
So where can people find you?
Cumbria.
Everywhere.
Facebook. Miraculous Cumbria podcast.
Do you have an actual website or?
I've booked the domain. It just points to my website. I think I've got a
miraculouscumbria.com. Is that what it is?
It'll just go to my website.
Go to Facebook.
Facebook.com/Miraculous Cumbria. Instagram, Miraculous Cumbria.
And the podcast's obviously available anyway. You can get a podcast.
Audio Boom, Spotify, iTunes.
Apple Podcasts.
iTunes.
Google Podcasts now. They've finally got their ass out to gear.
Oh, really?
Into gear. And there's an actual Google Podcast app.
Oh, shit.
And eventually, I don't know which model, but soon it'll be like Apple Podcasts where it'll be already on the phone.
Oh, okay.
Which means it'll open it up. That's the only reason Apple Podcast is so popular, because it's on the phone, so it makes people go, "Wow, this podcast," and they start looking at it.
Oh,
so now on all Android devices, that's what. So it'll open up to even more people. So
Brill.
Yeah.
That's where the fans are.
Thanks for having us. It's really
Yeah,
nice. It's
thank
our
you.
first merged podcast.
Yeah.
And we'd love to
Super
have you
exciting.
on our episode.
Yep.
Maybe we should visit somewhere and then we all talk about it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Penrith
That's a good idea.
McDonald's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Scope, the charity
Yeah.
shop.
No, never again.
I'm not going in there.
Like going
I've
with
got a
Steph.
picture of me up behind all cash registers now.
In Scope.
Watch out.
Don't squat next to this woman.
We're calling it the Scope.
The scope.
Don't
Yeah.
do a Scope.
Don't do a scope. Oh, I've done another scope. And on that note,
Right, thanks for joining us, guys. Cheers.
Thank
thank you. Bye.
Bye.